You hear me?
So maybe we might have to wait for Dr. Mia to join this classroom.
Sure. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, Dr.
Great.
Snigdha.
Thank you.
Do you have class before this?
After this, I have 11:30.
So this is your first class for today, right?
I had a meeting, not a class. So class will be the first class. You're right.
Okay. Uh, Dr. Mia is joining
Great.
on the way. We also waiting for our student to join this class.
Mhm.
So student, please invite your friends to join this online uh, special guest lecture because Dr. Snigdha is very an expert on like community program to create a community program for nutrition. So you have a class about the how to designing the community program ahead. So I hope the student could join this class.
Lena, may I know what is the level of the students? They are all undergraduate or postgraduate students?
Uh, all of them is an undergraduate student, mostly
Okay.
in the third or fifth semester.
Third or fifth semester. That means year two and year three.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So actually we have a lecture in the next semester about the designing the community program. So
Mhm.
we hope that the student could have an ability to creatively designing them, like um, not only using like a traditional one, maybe they can learn how to do it.
Okay.
So Dr. Mia asked for 5 more minutes before starting the classroom. I hope it's
Sure.
okay for you, Dr. Snigdha.
Okay. No problem. So I'll just switch off for 5 minutes and then come back. Huh? I'll be
Okay,
online.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
look at me. Respect and love the only way. If you wanna come, come with me. The door is open every day. This 1 + 2 rendezvous, all invited. This what we do, how we do. Look who we are. We are the dreamers. We make it happen. Guess we believe it. Look who we are. We are the dreamers. We make it happen. Cause we can see it. It's to the ones that keep the passion. Respect. Oh yeah. It's to the ones that can imagine. Respect. Oh yeah. نحلم إن يكون العالم أحلى ونعيش بحب. ونتجمع ونخلي صوتنا يملى هالدنيا حب. ونتكاتف نرفع وتفرق. ونتعاون نصنع ونحقق. وما نستسلم نتحدى ونتجاوز كل شدة ونغني بمودة. Look who we are. We are the dreamers. We make it happen. Guess we believe it. Look who we are. We are the dreamers. We make it happen. Cause we can see it. It's to the ones that keep the passion. Respect. Oh yeah. It's to the ones that can imagine. Respect. Oh yeah. We are the dreamers. We make it happen. Guess we believe it.
Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Mrs. Dr. Mia Srimiati, SGZ, MSc, as a Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences and Technology. The Honorable Associate Professor Dr. Stigda Misra, as a speaker. The Honorable all lecturers of Faculty of Health Sciences and Technology, and my proud participants who have been present at today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce myself. I am Anisha Nurrahmi Ramdhani as a student of Nutrition Study Program at Binawan University. It's a precious chance for me to be your Master of Ceremony on this very special occasion. First of all, let us pray and praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because of His blessing and mercy, we can come together without any obstacle here, with healthy condition in the event of guest International Medical University, Malaysia. We would like to say thank you and welcome to the participants for attending today's event. On this nice occasion, let me deliver the structure of the event today as follows. The first one is opening. Second one is welcoming speech by the Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences and Technology. Third one, introducing the speaker. Fourth, presentation of material by speaker. Fifth, the question and answer session. Sixth, conclusion. 7, photo session, and the last one is closing. Let's open this event by saying Basmalah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All right, now we invite Mrs. Dr. Mia Srimiati, SGZ MSc, to give a first speech. To Mrs. Dr. Mia, is it already connected?
Yes.
All right, to Mrs. Dr. Mia Srimiati, time and place are yours.
Okay. Thank you, Anissa, for the time. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Signa. Thank you for coming and thank you for accepting our invitation to this event. And also, this is our, we are very happy that we have this event, and I hope this event will increase our knowledge about internationality, and I hope the student will influenced by academic in international academic, and also after this event we will have another event that will become we will make together the collaboration between us will increase, because as you know before, our faculty consists of 5 study program. We have pharmacy, and we have technology, laboratory medic, and also physiotherapy and occupational health and safety, and then nutrition. And after this guest lecture, I hope we can make another event like community service and the other. Thank you for your coming, and also for the student that joining in this event. I hope you will understand the lecture, and it is our opportunity. This is maybe a rare opportunity for us to accept guest lecture from international lecture. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the speech, Dr. Mia Srimiati. And I want to inform to the participants here, don't forget to fill out the attendance link in the chat box at the end of the event. And also for the participants who would like to ask, you can ask the question in the chat box after presentation material has been given by the speaker. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now we come into the main point of the event, which will be delivered by Associate Professor Dr. Snigdha Misra. But before that, I would like to read the CV of her. She is an Associate Professor at the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics at the International Medical University, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She was the head of the department from 2014 until 2020. She has completed her education in India, starting with her undergraduate degree from the College of Home Science, OUAT, Bhubaneswar. She obtained her master degree from Avina Shillingam University, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu in 1991, and completed her Master of Philosophy from the same university in 1992. She worked at Odisha for 11 years and established the Department of Home Science with Nutrition as a priority into college in the state. Her main area of research interest is in public health nutrition and maternal and child health. She is currently working on sustainable nutrition across the lifespan. She is a reviewer for a couple of journals and also has publications in various peer-reviewed journals. And recently, she was awarded as the Fellow of Nutrition Society of Malaysia in 2022. Now, she is going to discuss about designing a community program based on its assessment. All right, so Professor Dr. Snigdha Misra, did you connect with us?
Yes, I'm connected.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, very clear,
Cool.
loud and clear.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
You have 60 minutes to give the presentation, and if you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you, Anisha, for the lovely introduction and a warm welcome to this group. I know this is the first time that we are engaging with you all here, but I hope this is not going to be the end. There will be many more opportunities again. So with that, I would like to start sharing my presentation. Do let me know whether it is clearly visible or not? Is it visible?
Yes.
Are you able to see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. Okay, so here I come and let me just minimize the screen so that I can have a good view of the program. Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to chat with the students on a very, very critical and important topic, which is designing a community program based on needs assessment. All this while we have been discussing amongst ourselves, or we know that there are a lot of programs running across every single country. But how are these programs conducted, or how are they planned? How is it organized? And what is the basis of these programs? Very few of us actually have an insight into it. So what is lacking, or probably we lose sight of, is why are we doing such kind of programs? What is its necessity? So with that, in today's session, I would like to take you through two major learning outcomes. One is identify the methods and techniques of a needs assessment, and the second lesson outcome is prioritize needs in a community program. Now, before I delve into the topic, I would want all of you to get your handphones and scan this QR code. And then you answer this question: why should we do a needs assessment? I give you 3 minutes to do it, because I understand you will take a bit of time to scan the code. Can you start now? You can either scan this code, or you can copy this link, and then you can click on this voting code. Are you able to do it? I can't see you all, so I'm just waiting for, please unmute and let me know whether you can do it or not.
All right, for the participants here, you can turn on your camera, and maybe you can scan the barcode here.
Yes, that will be the easiest.
Voting code.
Correct. So please scan the barcode. I think it is quite visible clearly on your screens. So that's the easiest way to do. If you are not aware how to scan this barcode, open your camera on your phone and just show it. Then it will take you to open it in Chrome or whatever you have, Safari or Chrome. Are the students able to do it? Meanwhile, let me also check whether the students are able to do it or not. Let's be a bit quick. Students, are you able to do it? I don't see anyone putting in their responses yet. You can see the screen here. Ah, wonderful. Yes, I've started seeing some responses. Another 2 minutes to go. I only find one person who is wonderful. Excellent. Another 1.5 minutes to go. Mm-hmm. Okay. One more minute. I only find 6 participants out of 60 who have engaged in this activity. Okay, the 7th participant is in. Good. 11th participant is in. "30 seconds more. Yep. Okay, so far we have got about 15 participants. Are you all able to see my screen? Can anybody let me know? Are you able to see the word cloud?
Yes, I can see it.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, so we stop here and then we see. Now, if you look at this word cloud here, the words that are bigger in size, the font size is bigger. That means many of you have put in that option. So it is coming out as bigger, and the rest of it, where you have only one responses, you see it in smaller font. But if you look at the overall cloud, what does it say? Let's pick up a few elements that you have put in here. To know, to evaluate. What are you going to evaluate? What do you want to know? What do you want to explore? Someone has put to find problems. Yes, you are finding problems. Finding problems where? To find the problems in the society, to know the problem, to make a decision. Some have mentioned to find a body mass index, but actually we are doing a needs assessment for finding a body mass index, but for what reason? Why should we need that data on body mass index? There should be a reason, right? So a needs assessment is generally done to explore what are the problems existing in that particular community. Unless you know where the gap is or where the problem is, you wouldn't be able to analyze why we are doing it, when should we do it, and how we should do it. There may be many problems in the society, and we as nutritionists may not have an answer for every single problem in the society. So that is the reason we need to do a needs assessment in our area of expertise, which is nutrition, and subsequently which affects the health. So that's the reason why we generally do a needs assessment. So keeping that in view, we need to address the needs of the community. When you look at the needs of the community, the needs are varied, just as I told you just now. It could be due to the needs may be in food, water, or sheltering, could be due to safety and security, could be in health and medical, could be in energy, which may be fuel, or it could be power, communication, transportation, and many other things which may be nutritionists. We must only emphasize and focus on those areas where we can find a solution. We may not find a solution in safety and security, or we may not get a solution, let's say, in how to make efficient use of in energy in this society. So we should not, we should always prioritize what we want, where is our area of expertise, how we can develop the society by helping the society. So that should be our focus or priority. So when we do a community needs assessment, we need to look into the first part, which is needs assessment. And you all have very nicely portrayed why we should be doing a needs assessment. Once you do the needs assessment and you get the gaps, or you have you have laid your hands on the actual problems, or you have identified the actual problems, only then you need to design and implement the intervention in order to overcome these problems. Once you design the intervention, your work does not end there. So you need to evaluate whether your intervention has worked there or not. If it has worked, what were the take-home message? What was it that worked very well? If you find that no, it could have been improved, You also need to find out what exactly went wrong. Where could we have improved better in order to arrive at better outcomes? And this is can be obtained through better feedback and in order to get a feedback for improvement. Now, from whom do you get feedback? You get feedback from all stakeholders. You see, your local leaders can be your stakeholder. Your community itself is a stakeholder. Policy or decision makers can be your stakeholder. Your other partners in a collaborative project can also be your stakeholder. So you should get feedback not only from the community, but across all the partners who are involved in this particular activity. So, what are the characteristics of a community assessment? You need to focus around what kind of assessment you need to do. Now, let's say you have a big community which has about 1 million people. Are you going to service 1 million people at one go? Is it humanly possible? No, of course not. You need to start off with a smaller community which you think you will be able to get an access into the reality check of that particular community. So you need to find out what interventions can be done in this particular community based on the existing problems. Now, when you are talking about the problems, you also must be mindful what is the environment of the community. What are the facilities that are currently existing in the community? Are there any government programs running? If they are running, why isn't it sufficient for the community? So you need to focus on the reality of the community. This is where we say you should do a reality check. You cannot do it online. You have to go down to the community, talk to the people there, talk to the local leaders there. You see for yourself, how does the community adapt itself in the present circumstances? And only then do not make a judgment, but rather populate or you collect all information from every different individual, and then only you can arrive at a due conclusion. So you should base your community assessment on the assets, but not so much on the deficit. For example, if a community has got a hall or a community center where you can run activities, that is an asset for you. Versus if you're going to a community where the houses are very scattered and the people are not very well, they are not economically strong. So they may be from a lower socioeconomic background. They may not have schools or education centers. They may not have a primary healthcare center. So these are the deficits. Now we cannot fix these deficits. Only the policy makers can help to fix these deficits. So what we do is in such circumstances, we look for assets. So assets meaning people, human capital is the biggest asset. So if you are able to motivate the people to come along with you in order to help for a greater cause for the community, it is an asset. So we shouldn't go to a community complaining, oh, they don't have this, they don't have that, they don't have even a primary health care center. How are we going to work? How do we measure their BMI when they do not have a community center? So let us not complain. What we need to do is we also need to adapt and sink into that community because we come with a purpose of helping the community. So we try to see whatever is existing within that means we should be able to connect with them and identify their needs. We also should help to integrate the nutrition programs into community-based institutions and initiatives. If you think that there is a separate program, there are few separate programs running by the government, try to come in and bridge them together so that they can work hand in hand. This way, what happens, there is a lot of savings on the infrastructural needs. There's a lot of health cost needs which can be reduced. And this, when I say it can be reduced, that means this amount that you are saving can be used back for the community for some other purpose. So try to integrate the different kind of nutrition programs into their existing programs that is currently present in the community. Include community and stakeholders as fully active participants. Just now I mentioned about stakeholders. So when you are trying to talk to the community, don't say that, oh, I only want to service these 2 lanes of the community. The remaining I don't want to do. Never ever do that. Try to engage them actively. Active engagement means not only having the community people there, but also engaging with their community leaders. You know, when you enter into a community, first thing that you need to do is rapport building. You need to develop a good relationship with the community itself. How do you do that? Because you are not a part of the community. You come from an urban area, for example, you come from Jakarta, and this community is somewhere in, let's say, in Sumatra or Java, and it's an isolated community. Why should they accept you? So you need to first build relationship with them, and this is rapport building. This rapport building can be done in multiple ways. You see, each of us have got our own inner strength, right? So it all depends on us. How do we connect? Some of us can connect through people on the ground by going and sitting with them, talking to them, asking about how they are doing, having an informal chit chat. In other words, some others may directly go into the community village level workers, if you have any, or any local leaders, and they try to approach the community through the local leaders, because the local leaders know the community very well. And so also the community people know the local leaders very well. So it is very easier to approach a community through the local leaders. So the local leaders become a stakeholder as well. When they become a stakeholder, they become a very supportive arm for all your projects. So any message or communication that that you are not able to pass on to the community, these stakeholders or community leaders will help you to pass the message on to the community. That's why you should include not only the community, but also the other stakeholders present in the community. Now, who are the other stakeholders who are present in the community? There may be some other programs, or there may be some other institutions. For example, there could be a primary health care center there. Try to engage with them. Ask them, what are the common problems that you face in the clinic from the community? So this is where information gathering becomes very easy when you are using multiple stakeholders in order to understand the existing problem of the community. So in order to have a successful community assessment, what you need to do, you need to understand the current conditions of the families, the individuals, the existing institutions within the communities are ruling over the community. What is existent in the community? What is the regulation which is followed by the community? Apart from that, you need to evaluate local capacities for supporting change. When you say local capacities, that means you need to talk to all the stakeholders. So the local leaders are also one of your most important stakeholders. Talk to them, ask them, how can they support you? When we are talking of support, it is not always in form of funding. Support can come even in form of transferring your message from you to bringing it to the community. Also to explain to the community the purpose why you are here. Engage with the community to ask, to get the community to ask more questions for clarity. So you need to evaluate how much will the local capacity there be able to support the change that you are trying to bring in. Then building community support for implementing changes. You know, the youth of today are very active. They're very, very active, unlike the youth of my days when I was in the youth age range. During my days, we were not so active. The reason why we were not active is we never had internet. We never had so much of television and so much of information overload. But these days, you are very fortunate. You can get all the information at the click of a button. So you may or may not approach the community directly, but you will do your groundwork about a community even before you go physically to visit a community. So you still have an opportunity to build a community for support. How do you do that? You see, the youth can always influence the youth. So if you can go into the community and you try to mingle with the youth of that particular community where you want to bring about a change, definitely you can form a smaller community there who will help you to act as a supporting community to run all your activities for the community. I take a pause here and I would like to check with you all. Are you okay with my pace? Am I going too fast? Please unmute and feel free to let me know.
No, okay, you're not fast.
Okay, I hope the students are able to understand. Okay, so now we see how should we go about this needs assessment. As I told you earlier in my prelude, that for designing any community program, first thing you should understand what is the need. You need to assess the need. You need to find out where is the problem. Unless you know where is the problem, you will not be able to alleviate the problem or find solutions for the problem. So you need to evaluate the health and nutritional status of the community. Now, why do I specify here health and nutritional status? As I mentioned to you earlier, any community can have multiple problems, but we are not authorized or we are not capable of solving every single problem in the community. We should understand where our proficiency lies. So we are proficient as a nutritionist, so we should be more accountable for the nutritional status of the community and also the health of the community. So in order to start off with the process, we need to evaluate the health and nutritional status of the community, then determine, once you evaluate their status, then you determine what the community's health and nutritional needs are. What is it currently like? Is it that there is a lot of obesity in the community? Or there is a more of underweight in the community? Or it could be a double burden of malnutrition? Or are the women and the girls in that particular community anemic, which is otherwise the hidden hunger? So there could be micronutrient deficiency. So you need to determine what is the community's health and nutritional needs. Then identify places where those needs are not being met. Now, what does this mean? When we are saying identify places, places does not mean places in the community. Places means that in the person's life cycle, where is the shortage coming from? Is it that they are not able to have 2 square meals a day? Or are they eating unhealthy meals? Or they do not have enough nutrition knowledge? Or they do not have funds for healthy meals? What is it? So you need to identify where these gaps are coming from, and you need to address those gaps. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is you should always go to the root cause or analysis of the problem. Any problem, whether it is this community problem or it is a behavioral issue, always try to probe and find out where did this problem come from. Unless you know the source of the problem, you will not be able to nip it at the bud. If not, you will only superficially be talking to them, but you are not actually treating the problem. You are only treating the symptoms or the signs that you see on the surface. So community needs assessment involves collecting of data, where in the previous slide, I showed you that you need to evaluate first. So you try to collect the information on health and nutritional status, analyze that particular data. Once you analyze that data, make this data available to the policymakers as well as the community. Because when you go to the community to ask, to tell them, look, this is your problem, and we need to help you to overcome this problem. So the next question the community asks you, how do you know that we have a problem? What is the evidence? We are all nutritionists, right? So you need to go with evidence. And that is why evidence matters a lot. In order to get evidence, you need to collect the data, you need to analyze the data. And once you analyze the data, make this data available to everyone, the community, the local leaders, all your stakeholders, the policymakers, everyone. Unless you make this data available, the funders who are going to fund for your community project, why should they fund? They cannot fund because they don't see any, they don't make any sense of it. So you need to make this data available. Do not keep it restricted with yourself, thinking that somebody will steal your data, but that's not your purpose. Your purpose is to intervene. In order to intervene, you need to understand and interpret the data correctly so that you know where to intervene. So this is where the collecting, analyzing, and making the data publicly available are some of the key purposes of a community needs assessment. Now, one thing we commonly encountered in the community, and people very much confuse health status versus nutritional status. That is, I have seen that people start using these two terminologies interchangeably, but they are actually different. Now, health status actually gives you the quality of your life, the physical and psychosocial functioning of you as a person. So when you're going to the community for health status, you're looking into how does how is the population health, and what is their quality of life? Are they doing enough physical activity, physical exercise or not? Do they have a good mental and social health as well? So that determines the health status. Whereas a nutritional status is when the health is affected due to the underutilization or utilization of nutrients and also of non-nutrients. Now, what is the difference between nutrients and non-nutrients? Can anybody tell me what is the difference between nutrients and non-nutrients? Just unmute and speak out. Huh? I can't see your chat box now. Anybody? What do you mean by nutrients and what do you mean by non-nutrients? Okay, this is a homework for you all, because as I understand that you are from year 2 until year 3, so you will do this and you will report back to your lecturers. So the nutritional status is whether the food that they are consuming, is it really helping them to have a good health status? Are their BMI within the normal range, or is it lower, or is it higher? If it is lower, what could be the reason? If it is higher, what could be the reason? So never rest your laurels just by knowing it's good or bad. Try to dive deep to find out what could be the cause, whether good or bad. Factors which may trigger the need of community needs assessment. Sometimes you are asked, when you go to the community, why should you do it? You can find all the data online. What's the need? We are spending so much of money going to the community. So when is it needed for you to do this needs assessment? If there is some existing data, which is very old, if it is older than 5 years, or let's say, I think 5 years also is too long a period of time. If it's more than 4 years also, that data is no longer usable. Now, in the current situation, we are in the post-pandemic era now. A lot of things changed during the pandemic. So now the data before pandemic may not be relevant anymore because the societal acceptance of many things has changed during the period of pandemic. So in that case, you need to collect new data in order to understand what is the need of that community. That is one reason why you need to have a community needs assessment. There is another reason. If the government says, okay, this community needs, we need to do a needs assessment to understand what is that problem and why we are not able to resolve it. How does the government know? Maybe they have come through clinics, or they have got some data from clinics saying that there is a lot of unhealthy population in this community. So in that case, the government or any of your regional stakeholders could have asked for it. Then the third one is availability of funding serves as an impetus. Sometimes when you have a bit of funding, you may think, okay, why don't we go to this community and see how have they managed in the post-COVID era? So that also could be a trigger for needs assessment. The last one, but not the least, could be certain research findings may make you think that I need to have an in-depth community needs assessment here because I feel some more information is lacking based on which I can make certain decisions. So based on these factors, there is a need, or this triggers the need for a community needs assessment. So how do we approach? We can approach through determining its purpose.Hy are we doing it? Even before planning, you see, planning comes at a much, much later stage. Planning, organizing, implementing, controlling, evaluation, all that process is there. But that comes at a very, very later stage. Here, what we are discussing is what is the impetus or what is the basis of designing a community nutrition program. So the scope of the assessment, why we are doing it, must be specified. Are you trying to identify the health and nutritional problems of a large population? Or are you targeting a particular subgroup of the community? If you are doing either or, you need to justify. You cannot just pick and choose at your own leisure, saying that, okay, I feel like doing, so I'm going to do it. That's not how it is done, because you need to use the funding, whatever little you get, in a very, very proper manner so that it is not misused and it is used for the right purpose. Whatever the scope or the purpose of the community needs assessment is, you need to get information about the health and the nutritional status of the target population. So here you must remember, you may have a large community of, say, 100,000 people. Okay? Are you going to make a change or a program for 100,000? You shouldn't. Start with a smaller population first. From that population, you will have a lot of learnings. How is this population or how is this group reacting to these program? How can we improvise it further? So you can always start from small, never start from big, because you will be wasting a lot of resources without knowing whether it is workable or not. Okay, so scaling up is easier, but scaling down is very difficult. So try to start with a smaller population, with a smaller community or a subgroup of a population, and then only you try to evolve from there. So no matter whatever is the scope, your scope generally should be nutritional status of the target population. No matter what your scope is, you still have to follow certain principles in order to conduct a proper community needs assessment. So this is the process of a needs assessment. Step one is define the nutritional problem. How do you define the nutritional problem? As I told you in the previous slides, you need to first evaluate the situation, talk to your different stakeholders, gather some data, and analyze the data, make the data available. From that data, you should be able to define what is the nutritional problem currently existing in the community. Then set the parameters of assessment. See, when you say that you are going to design a program for a community and you are, let's say, 5 of you want to sit down and work together, you will have 5 different ideas coming, which is good, no issues. But all your ideas may be flying away from one another. So in order to be cohesive, you need to set certain parameters of this needs assessment. Only when you set these parameters, then only you go in and start collecting the data. Then step 4 is analyze and interpret the data. Step 5 is share the findings of the assessment. Once you share the findings, there could be many findings. After getting those findings, you need to set your priorities. Which one are you aiming to do first? Because when you are setting your priorities, you need to identify which one needs urgent attention. And also, how much budget can you get for that? It is always, most of the programs are revolving around budget. So you need to know the availability of the funds, plus what is most important thing that you can do. And later, the other things can wait. So you have to set your priorities and then choose a plan of action. Now, in today's session, what I will talk to you, step 4, 5, 6, and 7, more or less we have discussed. But these are very short steps. So it's not going to be very tedious. But what is very, very important is step 1, 2, and 3. So in today's session, I will highlight mostly on 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as I have already been discussing about analyzing, setting your priorities. This may not be much of a problem for you to understand. So now coming to step 1, define the nutritional problem. You know, for any program that you want to initiate, the first challenge is where to start. How do we start a program? How do we go to the community? Who should I contact? Where can I get contacts? Now, all these things will be always revolving in your mind before you start off. That is why step 1, 2, and 3 are very, very important for you. Once you are able to achieve or complete step 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is all a game. You can just plan it from there because you know all the things are in order. That is the reason why my focus of today's lecture will be on step 1, 2, and 3. So the community nutritionist develops a concise statement of the problem of concern. You know, when you do a research project, we always have a research question. So similarly, in the community project also, we should have a research question or a problem statement. The problem statement is used to help to plan the assessment, how you're going to do an assessment in order to collect the data and motivate other agencies to join your assessment team. Always remember, you cannot, in any community project or in any community engagement activities, you can never work single-handedly. You need multiple partners to work with you. So you need to plan the assessment well so that based on your assessment, you can show the problem statement to your other collaborators or other partnering agencies, including the stakeholders from the community, to convince them that we must do this project or we must do this activity, and what would be the outcome. Always focus on the outcome. So they will ask you, okay, you want to run this program here for what? What will we get at the end of the day? So you should be able to answer their question, what is your problem and how you are going to solve it. So you should be solution-centric, not problem-centric. You get the problem and work around for solutions around the problem. So in order to define your problem, you need to understand who is affected by that nutritional problem. Is it pregnant mothers? Is it young children? Is it the elderly? Is it working adults? Is it adolescents? So you need to identify which group of the population is affected by the nutritional problem. So you have identified, that's why I said it's a systematic approach. You cannot just walk into the company and walk into the community and ask people walking on the road, hey, what problems do you face? They'll say, what problems? What do you mean? They don't understand. So you need to have a systematic approach. So when you have a systematic approach, the first question is who? Who is affected by this nutritional problem? Second approach, how many people experience this problem? Third question, how big is the impact on the general health and nutritional status of this problem? Next question, where are the gaps in the community's knowledge? Do they know? Are they aware of this problem? Or is it just that we came in and we found out, and then when we are telling them, they're in denial, they do not want to accept it. So you need to have a systematic approach to the problem. So identify who is affected with the problem, identify the number, how many of them are affected, and how does this impact their health or nutritional status, and find out how much aware is the community of this existing problem within the community. Then coming to the step 2. So in the first case, we have already identified the nutritional problem. The second is setting the parameters of the assessment. As I told you, if we are 5 people planning for the community program, we will have 5 different views. We are coming from 5 different angles, and sometimes we are unable to arrive at a conclusive decision. So in order to solve this issue, we need to set certain guidelines or parameters of the assessment. And this must be determined before you do any community needs assessment. As I told you, community needs assessment is a very, very systematic process. It is not that one of you go and ask 2 people, another goes and asks 3 people, then come back, oh, I asked that auntie, the auntie told me this is this. Then another person will say, no, you are wrong. I went and asked that uncle, he's older. He told me this is the problem. So there is a disagreement already between 2 of you. How are you going to work in a team? So in order to work in a team, you need to set your ground rules better. So that is known as setting the parameters for this assessment. Now, what are the basic, what is the direction of setting the parameters? First is define the community. In step 1, you define the problem. Okay, in the step 2 here, the parameters, you are defining the community. Who is the community? Which community? If you are staying in an urban area, there could be urban poor also. There could be urban, rural poor also on the outskirts of the city. So who is your focus? Which community are you taking? In a community which is well educated and also of a high middle income or a high income group does not mean that they do not have the problem. You may not see it, but they may be also having the problem. So you need to define which community are you going in first. Then determine the purpose of the needs assessment. Why are you doing this needs assessment? Remember, you have to make the data available. After you collect the data, after you analyze, then you interpret the data and make it publicly available. So that should give you, that data should be able to give you why you need to do a needs assessment. Now, once you determine the purpose, you need to define the target population. So who will be your target population? Is it the elderly? Is it the pregnant mothers, lactating mothers, young children, or adolescent girls and boys? Who? You need to identify who your target population is. Now, sometimes you may think, oh, when we are going to a community, we take everybody together. Can you do that? You should always take a step back and think, I have X amount of rupaya given for this project. But here I have a community which has about 10,000 people. Can this funding support the 10,000 people? You need to take a step back and think. So don't be ambitious in saying, oh, I want to eradicate the problem for the whole community at one shot. It never happens. It's very, very unrealistic. So you need to be realistic. So define the target problem. If you're trying to see that from the data that you got, oh, many of them are anemic. When you see many of them are anemic, figure out, try to sub-analyze the data and see which group is the most anemic. Try to start from the most anemic group. That could be a possibility. Or if you find that the most anemic group is an adolescents, but pregnant mothers are equally anemic. So who should be your priority? This is where you need to be judgmental about who you should prioritize, because you do not have sufficient funds. You have a limited fund. Within that limited fund, you need to start somewhere. So do you think you need to give the focus to the pregnant mothers, or do you want to give focus on the adolescents? It's up to you, depending upon how you are interpreting your results. So once you identify the target population, you set goals and objectives for the needs assessment. So once you identify the community, you identify the purpose of doing this needs assessment, then you have identified the target population, then only you set goals and objectives of the needs assessment. Specify the types of data needed for this needs assessment. So when we say define the community, we should understand who are the people who are present in, who represent the target population, and they live within that geographical region. So for example, if you want to say you want to run a project amongst the urban poor in Jakarta. So what is your geographical location? Are you going by your district? Are you going by a small village? Or are you going by a location? So you need to narrow it down to your adapted target population. Then determine the purpose of needs assessment. How do you determine the purpose of needs assessment? Identify groups who are at risk nutritionally. I gave you an example just now. Let's say you have two groups who are anemic, and you want to make sure that you want them to overcome anemia. So you have two groups of population. One is the adolescent girls, the other one is pregnant mom. Now both are at risk nutritionally. So who would you prioritize? Would you want to go for the pregnant mom first? Later on, you can follow up with scale it up to the adolescent girls, or vice versa. So you need to find out what is the most critical need and accordingly set priorities amongst them. I also determine the factors which contribute to a nutritional problem. So what are the factors that contribute to anemia? For example, amongst the pregnant mothers and the young adolescents, you need to identify those factors and see whether any existing resources and programs are already there which can help this. And if it is there, find out why isn't it working. If it is not there, then it becomes your utmost responsibility to ensure that you try to take this program up. Then provide baseline information for developing action plans to address these needs, and then only plan your actions to improve the nutritional status. Now, once you plan your action, you have to be very cautious here. You need to tailor it to the specific population. For example, you have created an anemia reduction program, for example, for adolescent girls. Now, that may not apply to pregnant mothers. So you need to tailor that program in order to fit into the pregnant mother's requirements. Then define the target population. We already have discussed about it. Then set goals and objectives in order to determine the types of data collected and how you are going to use this data. So you need to also have goals, which are very overarching statements to indicate what is this project going to accomplish at the end of this project. So you need to set goals and objectives. Now, what are objectives? They are statements of outcomes and activities that you are going to do in order to reach your goal. For example, your goal is to reduce anemia amongst pregnant mothers in community A. That's your goal. Now, objectives will be you want to decrease this anemia amongst the pregnant mothers by, say, 20% or by 30%. 100% at one shot, definitely you cannot do. You have to be realistic here. So the objective should give you a measurable outcome. You want to reduce by 20% or you want to reduce by 10%. It's up to you how you set your objectives. So every single objective should have single purpose. Don't put in your objective saying that, oh, I want to reduce the anemia amongst pregnant mothers and adolescent girls and adolescent boys, for example. So you're putting 3 objectives into one. You will not be able to know which one is your priority. So objectives should be focused on priority, and that priority should be based on your target population, based on the data that you have received. So when you want to specify the types of data that you need in order to identify your objective, you need to know what is the purpose of doing it, what is the goal, and what is the objective of assessment. Let's say you want to work on the pregnant women because you know they have already conceived and you want a healthy child for the healthy mother and also the mother to be healthy. So here you have 2 lives to take care of. So in that case, you should make very clear about your goal that you want to alleviate anemia amongst pregnant mothers. So your purpose will be to reduce to get data on these pregnant mothers and know how many of them are anemic, whether they're severely anemic, whether they have mild anemia, or they are normal. So based on that, you need to design your purpose and then only have your objective, which will be tailored to your outcome. So the objective should be measurable. When I say measurable, meaning you should clearly state, oh, this the number of pregnant mothers in this community, majority of them are anemic. So when you say majority, what is the percentage? Is it 80%? Is it 70%? What is it? So then your objective can be, you cannot eradicate anemia all totally because it requires a lot of other intervention. You possibly can say you want to reduce the anemia by rate of anemia, prevalence of anemia by 10%. So that becomes your objective. Unless there is a clarity in the objective, you cannot design the program properly. Then collect the data. So we begin the data collection by knowing about the community first. So in the environment in which the target population lives and how it works. Then collect data about the individuals who make up the target population. So in general, the first thing is you want to collect the data about the community, the overarching characteristics of the community. For example, it can start with the geographical location. How far is it from the city? For example, does it have a primary healthcare center? Does it have a nutritionist at a primary healthcare center? Where do the people go when they want to go for antenatal checkup? These are some of the external factors that helps you to understand how the fabric of the community is. Only after you gather this information, then you go and approach the individuals who make up your target population. So when you look at the target population, it is actually influenced by many levels. The outermost level is the background conditions. Sorry, anyone is asking anything? No? Okay. So what is the cultural characteristics? For example, what is the ethnic distribution of the population? What is the socio-demographic distribution of the population? So certain background conditions, as well as are there any national policies working in this region? After that, we come to the next level, which is the community conditions, where we inquire about environmental characteristics, the socioeconomic characteristics, as well as the community characteristics. Then there is another level, which is living, working, and social conditions. Then only comes the individual lifestyle factors. So unless you collect some background information on these three semicircles, it is very difficult for you to approach here and also interpret the results in terms of the other external factors. The qualitative and quantitative data help to describe the community, its values, health problems, as well as its needs. So qualitative data will, how can you get qualitative data? By asking people through focus group discussion, by getting insights through interviews, also asking everyone, in all stakeholders to be included, the local leaders, the village level leaders, the primary healthcare centers, or any other institution which is working for the community. Also, those people who are very knowledgeable about the community, they are called as key informants. And generally, in such communities, we look up to the elderly population who have seen the evolution of the community. So they can give you an entire picture of how the community has transitioned. And of course, the stakeholders who have an interest in identifying and addressing the nutritional problem. So members of the target population can provide information about the communities. Now that what we discussed all this while was the qualitative data through interview by asking the stakeholders. Now we need quantitative data, and this quantitative data can either be obtained from a variety of databases, or if there is a need for you to conduct a survey, you have to get the quantitative data. Otherwise, generally, the quantitative data can be obtained from the registries of vital statistics. Every country has their division of data under Ministry of Health, because we are mostly related to community nutrition and health. So our data may be under the Ministry of Health, or from certain published research studies, or from hospital records like the primary healthcare centers, or if anybody else has conducted certain local health surveys and they have made the data available, you can get your quantitative data from there. So when you collect the data, you need to collect the data based on community characteristics, environmental characteristics, as well as socioeconomic characteristics. So remember, when you're asking the socio-demographic profile, it should have components of all these three elements: community, environmental, as well as socioeconomic status. The community characteristics also includes whether there are local health organizations, whether it is having some media representation, and also the demographics of the community, such as what is the gender of the, what is the percentage of the gender of people present, what are the age ranges, what are the different ethnicities, races, what's the marital status, living arrangements, education status, all this, and also income level. Some of them even ask whether there are other social behaviors like smoking, alcohol consumption, and many other factors. Depending on what your objective is, what is your main goal, you need to design this to collect the quantitative data. So this is a snapshot of where you can get the different types and sources of data about the community. So you can see here community organizational power and structures. Now, this may be slightly different in your country because this varies from country to country. What I have taken here is mostly from United States, where they have different levels of data, the sources of data are very different. But in Asia, our sources of data and origin of data could be also different. So for example, we could even get our data from yellow pages of a phone book. These days, yellow pages are not available so much because internet has eaten away those physical books. But however, if you have any database, you can always approach for database. But one thing, these days, there are many market intelligence research being conducted. Of course, you have to pay a price in order to get the data set of a particular community. The community characteristic also includes causes and rates of disease, disability, and death, and also the general population's nutritional problems. So this also can be asked. Now, one of the things that we generally ask under socio-demographic is about their height and weight. Why we ask this? Because we want to know their BMI status in order to make an assessment of their nutritional status. Now, we also know that from the latest studies that waist circumference is a better predictor of nutritional status as compared to BMI. Having said that, we still consider BMI because we are not going down physically to collect the data. Unless we are doing it, then we would ask them for reported, self-reported health, height and weight, from which we can extrapolate calculate the BMI. And from this, once we know the population's nutrition problem, this can help us to pinpoint where the gap is and where we can come in through this program in order to provide services. So the environmental characteristics that we were discussing about is access to medical clinics, access to transportation, access to nutritious foods. And it is not only access to nutritious foods, but also affordability and availability. In certain, during COVID, some areas, because of the breakdown in transportation and also in the supply chain, because the whole world went on lockdown for the first few months, right? So during that time, there was a major issue which was emerging that people could not have an access to food. Fruits and vegetables could not be moved from the farms to the table because there was no supply chain working in order to prevent COVID. So this is something which was very, very difficult to accept, and it was the pricing of the products also increased. So many people could not have a good access to even food, the nutritious food. So this is also considered to be one of the important environmental characteristics. And of course, the maternal and health clinics could not provide antenatal checkups to the pregnant mothers, specifically during the first 4 or 5 months of COVID. And because of that, they could not have the supplementation to be continued, because supplementation is provided by the antenatal clinics. So these are certain environmental characteristics which needs to be which needs to be understood even before we address the problem. So now this is the overall overview of the process of needs assessment. We discuss about step 1, which is define the nutritional problem. Step 2, we have set the parameters of the assessment. Step 3 is how to collect data about the community, how to create a goal, and how to collect both quantitative and qualitative data. We have seen under step 3. Step 4, once you collect the data, you need to analyze and interpret the data. We discussed about this. Step 5 is sharing the findings of your assessment, what you found from the community. Then step 6 is setting your priority, which we have also discussed, and setting your priority was also under step 1, where we were trying to understand if there are multiple nutrition problems, which nutritional problem should be given the priority first. And only after you accomplish step 6, then only we start designing our community program. And this actually helps us to choose a plan of action. So with this, I think you should be able to have a preview of how important is step 1, step 2, and step 3 in order to progress further with step 4, 5, 6, and then arrive at a decision of creating a proper plan which may help in accomplishing your goals. Okay, so that's it from me. And thank you very much. I'm hopeful that you have a couple of questions. So please feel free to shoot your questions to me. Thank you.
Okay, so before we are going to do the assessment, we should know the main problem that is identified. And we also have 7 steps of the process to assessment, but there are 3 main steps, such as define the nutritional problem. Next is set the parameters of the assessment and also collect data about the community. Cool, that was very, very interesting topic. Thanks to Professor Dr. Stigda Misra for the knowledge which have been given to us and made useful for us. Now, we move to the question and answer session. Like I said before, for the participants here who would like to ask a question, you could write your question in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself, or maybe you can turn on your microphone. But please mention your name and also your institution. Okay, we're going to waiting for you guys for the questions. Okay, Dr. Sandra Hakim Afrizal raised a hand. You could answer the question. You could ask the question.
Okay, thank you, Anisha, and my name is Dr. Misra, and my name is Sandra. Actually, I'm the lecturer in the Gunawan University, but since my what do you call that? My major topic for lecture usually in the digital technology. And do you have any opinions regarding to the digital technology implementation for the community nutritional intervention? And are there any suggestions from your expertise regarding to the implementation of the digital technology for this program? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra, for the question. It's a very important question that you have actually raised. Absolutely. There is a lot of apps now coming in. See, when we are working with the community earlier, it was on a paper-based platform that we were working, right? We were carrying the papers, going to the community, asking them to fill and give back to us. But COVID has taught us new methods to work around. You see, our vaccination, it is projected through an app on our phones, right? And everybody now owns a smartphone, correct? So these apps are very simple, and some apps are also used by all communities so that it can be in form of infographics where they can populate the information. So now your question is how can we use digital technology in order to intervene or in order to carry out a community nutrition program? Let me give you an example. In 2020, when COVID struck us, this was March 18, the whole world went on lockdown. In about May, June, we got a call from the community from the urban poor community telling us that we need your help. So we asked what kind of help. So they said that there are many pregnant mothers. They are only binge eating on fried foods, and many of them are diabetics. We don't know how to handle these people. So who gave us a call? It was one of the NGOs who was working with that group. So when they said that, can you come down and advise our mothers how to make this possible, how to improve their diets and so on. So that was that time we were under complete lockdown. So we had to take special permission, and then we approached the community. Two of me and my colleague, we went into the community to talk to the mothers. Now all mothers are at home. So how do we connect with them? What we did was we used WhatsApp, because you cannot get people to a community center. So we went to the community, we sat outside, got the numbers, the contact numbers of the pregnant mothers from the community leaders, from the NGO and the community leaders. Then we formed a WhatsApp group call. Through the group call, we started doing intervention. How? What are you eating? If the mother was eating, we asked her, can you show your plate? Focus your camera on the plate and show us. So I'm giving you just a snippet of how digital technology helped us to alleviate. So that was the way when we could connect with them, though not physically, but through digital media. So this was for the few sessions. After that, it became very tiring because mothers started calling on and off. So what we did was we created certain segments every week, Saturday, 3 to 4 or 5 to 6. This 1 hour, we started doing Facebook Live. Then we started asking the mothers, you share your problems, we give you solutions. We had to just work around the problem then. We never had a proper solution, but we wanted to offer a solution. So these are some things which was at the initial stage, but later on, we actually got somebody else to develop an app where we put in the nutritional component. So healthy eating, all that we started putting in, even the Ministry of Health under the My Sejahtera app, which is under the Malaysian Ministry of Health for the vaccination follow-up. They started putting infographics about healthy eating, how to stay healthy, how to manage health, how to do physical activity. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is digital health has become the most important platform to address these community programs now. Did I answer your question, Dr. Sandra?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'm really happy to hear your explanation so that we can try to make something with this kind of new intervention.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see there are a couple of questions here. So if I can take the question from Ratu Fitria first.
Yes.
She's from Nutrition Study Program. She wants to ask, when it comes to identifying a nutritional problem, many families are either low income or virtually poor. That means they can't afford nutritious food. What would a community program do to address that? Excellent question. Excellent question. Thank you, Ratu, for thinking out of the box. I generally work with the urban poor as well as the rural poor. And what we have done is, first things first, the mindset of the people has to change. Whenever it comes to healthy foods, everybody says, oh, it's so expensive. Not necessarily. It is not expensive. You need to choose your food well. We as nutritionists should be able to connect with the people and tell them about low-cost foods. Don't go and ask them to eat flax seeds, chia seeds, juice from Marks and Spencer or from Aeon. No need. Tell them what they can do within their income level. Growing of small plants at home, if they grow a papaya plant within their community, They can eat papayas for months together. Many people can eat from there. And you know, papaya, whether it is raw papaya, ripe papaya, is one of the healthiest fruits. You can cook it as a vegetable, you can eat as a fruit. So we as nutritionists should go down to the ground and talk to them and tell them, you don't have to always go and purchase healthy foods, which is highly priced in the market. Cook your own meals. If you can manage roti with roti, how can you make a sandwich? Use cabbage, use carrots. These are cheap. These are healthy also. How can you make a quick sandwich? If you're making mee goreng, how can you add more vegetables to mee goreng? Don't have to buy from outside. So we as nutritionists should give them healthier options for any food that they consume, so that it should be within their economic range. I give you another example, the same example that I explained to Dr. Sandra, the same community, pre-COVID. We went to that community and had a competition for mother and their child. One mother paired with their child. You know what was the competition? They have to give us a menu for preparing breakfast for 4 people within $10. Dollars meaning Malaysia ringgit, so whatever it translates to. So for 4 people, they have to prepare healthy breakfast within 10 Malaysia ringgits. First, they thought it is difficult. But you know how many participants came out? There were 25 pairs of mother and child. They did it. They did it. Only then they realized in a day they are purchasing breakfast for 25 ringgits for 4 packs. But the same breakfast they can prepare at home, takes less than half an hour, and they can prepare full meal breakfast for within 10 ringgits. How did they do that? We trained them on healthier options, then only gave them this competition. So it is application. Don't tell them, okay, you can buy carrots instead of buying, let's say, frozen carrots from the market. Don't do that. Show them how. You are nutritionists. Show them. When you show something, they tend to accept. Whereas when you tell them, they will listen, garbage in, garbage out. Do you understand? That is why the role of nutritionists is very, very critical and important in healthcare. Did I answer your question, Ratu?
Okay, that was very nice answer, Dr. Snigdha Misra. Let me read the next question for you.
Sure.
And it comes from Anissa Tresna, and she wants to ask about, we know that the program community will provide some intervention, but how can you bring out the sympathy of the public in order to participate in it?
Very good question. Very good question. It is difficult. I'm honestly telling you, I've been working with this community for the past 18 years. It is very difficult. So when I told you about the steps, you need to create a rapport, I told you, right? Go through the community leaders. First, build a rapport with community leaders. Then only you approach the individual. Don't go and approach the individual in the community first. You will fail. I can tell you, you will fail. Go to the community leaders, convince the community leaders why you are there, how you can offer your help to the community. This community leaders will then form a very strong bonding with you, and you both will go down to the community to tell. So that is how you have to get your community with you to work on this. But I understand there will be challenges. First, they will tell you all, okay, we are ready to join. Next week, nobody will come. Again, I'm giving you an example. I told you I'm working with this community for the past 18 years. In 2013, 2014, this community had an obesity rate of 68%, especially the women and the mothers. So we targeted only the mothers. From 18 years until 45 years, we targeted the ladies, women, whether they are mothers, whether they are unmarried, we targeted everybody. We conducted weekly aerobic classes. First weeks, and we did this aerobic classes for 3 months. For first month, we had 22 participants. Second month, we had 18 participants. Third month, we had only 7 participants. Very difficult. It's not easy. But the 7 participants who were there till the end, they became the game changer. We did not know. They started pushing people and getting them. Look, we have lost weight. Look, aerobic is fun. It is not exercise. So they again, those 7 helped us to bring back some participants, and we got back about 17 participants. So this up and down will be there. Don't get disappointed. You have to be brave. If you are going for a community project, you have to be brave. You cannot chicken out. So there will be ups and downs. You have to brave it and move ahead. Okay, so this is how you need to bring back. So when you are showing your results, the people from the community will become your spokesperson to get other people in. So this is how it works spirally. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks to Dr. Snigdha to answer the question. And for Anissa, Tresna, I hope it will answer your question. And the next question, guys, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask Dr. Snigdha. Any of you guys who wants to unmute yourself?
Okay, there's one question from Ananda Egi Saputri. Let me read out this question. It's a good question again. I want to ask, would volunteers who attended a program community be given prior training before starting intervention? Because it is possible that volunteers in a program community could not come from the health field, or are volunteers only devoted to someone with health experience? Okay, excellent question. Now, you should be the driver. You as a nutritionist or a healthcare professional, you should lead this program, then get volunteers and train them. Okay. Volunteers sometimes, but sometimes vice versa also happens. Like I gave the example, I have a community NGO working in the community. They are inviting me this Saturday to come and help and train volunteers for pregnant mothers and lactating mothers to improve their nutrition. So it can be both ways. If there is a group of volunteers working in the community, but they do not have the health expertise or nutrition expertise, they can reach out to you. Or if you are conducting a nutrition program and you want some support from the community, you can reach out to the community. So it can be both ways. So you have to train them what you want them to do. But when the community invites you, the community already sets a goal. Oh, we want to improve their nutritional intake and options, offer them good food choices. How can they select their own food? Then you know what the purpose is. You go dive and immediately dive and do it. Okay, so that is how you need to have a two-way volunteer program. So you can train volunteers in order to run the program. Now, the next question, because it's, I think in the interest of time, I could take more questions. So next question is from Nabila. I want to ask, for example, one of the interventions to a community of programs would be educational activities. Yes. What was the focus on the intervention program? Is it just a transfer of knowledge or seeing any change in the person given an intervention? Wonderful. Very good question. So why are we doing an intervention? We want to see a change. So your change becomes your outcome. If you're trying to take up a program to reduce obesity in a group of ladies, let's say, so you are running an intervention program, conducting aerobic exercises, teaching them about healthy eating, about portion control, and so on. After 3 months period, you should see a decline in their, reduction in their weight, at least by 5 to 10%. So that is your outcome. So your intervention, even if it is an educational program, if your educational program is good, it should result in a good outcome. So your outcome can be seen in my example. You can see the outcome in terms of reduction of weight. You may not see 100%. Maybe 20% of this population has a reduced weight by how many percent? That becomes your outcome. Then only you know your educational intervention program has been working. Okay. To do that, you cannot say that I come today and I give you half an hour lecture. In 3 months' time, I will come back and see what is your weight reduction. It will never happen. You have to follow up continuously. So if you're giving an educational program today, tell them in 3 weeks' time, the next session will be there. They can bring up what are the challenges they are facing in the portion control, for example, or in selecting their food. So answer those questions. Then they get motivated. You have to keep them engaged in order to get a positive outcome. If you're just telling them, giving them one educational program, and then you're moving out, it is not going to work. It is, community engagement is a continuous process. It is not a single process. Okay, that's okay. Then next one is Tamara.
Sorry, Misra. Nur Adiniawati already raised a hand.
Okay, please
And she
please
wants
go
to
ahead.
unmute herself.
Sure.
Thank you,
For Nur
Ica.
Adiniawati.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Nikda.
Hi.
I'm Nuradinewati from Nutrition Study Program. I
Mhm.
want to ask, budget is always become the main obstacle.
Yes.
How we can designing if without specific budget? And do you have any suggestion for us students to create a community nutrition program that is visible for us to do? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Good question. Yes, budget is, of course, needed. See, even if you have to go to the community, you need budget because transport incurs expense, right? You are talking to the community. Once, if you go, it does not help. One thing I can tell you is how you can minimize your budget. But you have to get some budget, whether it is from the university or whether it is from other funding agencies. For example, you can apply for health funds from a health promotion board. I don't know whether it is there in Indonesia. You can ask them. These days, you can approach companies. Many companies, even the food companies also, if you tell them you want to run a project or if they have some goals to achieve for their corporate social responsibility, you can help them to drive it. So that's how you get a budget. Now, budget you have to get through stakeholders. You cannot have a budget of your own. You cannot spend from your own pocket. It is not sustainable. So we have to make it sustainable. Now, so once you collaborate with different parties, with the local leaders, with policy makers, you can approach them provided you write a good proposal. If you're writing a good proposal and the funder sees a good, reasonable outcome, definitely, at least they will be able to fund. The other one is industry, as I mentioned, food industries and many other, even pharmaceutical industries are also helping to fund these kind of CSR activities. So you have to try your hands at different places in order to get the budget. Now, the second part, how can you minimize or optimize your budget? Use virtual platform. For example, if you're giving an educational program, unless you don't have to go down to the community all the time, but at least once or twice you have to go, because even virtual mode, you may not get a connect with the population there. So you first go to the community, talk to them, try to build a rapport with the community. Subsequently, when you want them to engage with you, you can say, okay, we can contact on WhatsApp, we can have a group call, or we can contact on Facebook Live. Then next session, again, we can meet. So this is how you can manage or optimize your budget. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nikda.
Thank you.
And also we have 2 more questions here. And from
Okay.
Fajia Tamara, she asked, is there a specific strategy to design a program community, especially for the problem of malnutrition? Thank you.
Strategy is the same. You need to identify the problem. You need to set your parameters, set your goal, then your objective. So unless you do these 3, you cannot organize any community program. And then most importantly, priorities. So here you have given your priority of malnutrition. Malnutrition can be both undernutrition and overnutrition. So you need to identify what you want to do first, right? So follow step 1, step 2, and step 3. This is the strategy for building up or creating a community program. Okay.
Okay, cool. And the last one, Anggi Destiani from Nutrition Study Program, and she asked about what are the advantages of having a local partner or collaborating with healthcare in administering an intervention program designed in a community.
Okay, thank you, Anggi Destiani. Actually, I answered this question already, but I just want to again reiterate that unless you have a local partner, you cannot enter into the community because the community knows the local agency there. They are more familiar because they have been working together. When you are going as an outsider, it is very difficult to break the pathway and enter inside. They will not accept you like that. So if you're going through a local partner, then the local partner is a common friend to both the community as well as you. So you can seamlessly approach the community. Okay, that's one way of doing it. The other reason why you need to have a local partner is facilities. If they have a community hall there, you can run your activities in the community hall. If you don't collaborate with the local partner, you cannot spend money on setting up tents and all that within that area in order to run your activity. And what is the guarantee that the community is going to allow you to do that? Do you understand? So you need to convince and have an engagement with the local partner to build a strong rapport. For any community program, you need to have a strong rapport between all the stakeholders and all the partners within the community if you want your program to be successfully delivered and outcomes to be achieved.
All right. It looks like, thank you so much for Dr. Snigdha. And it looks like we're going to have to stop with the Q&A session because we're out of time. And for Dr. Snigdha Misra, thank you so much for answering the questions. And for the participants, thank you for asking. Well, I think the participants here are very, very interesting of the topic. It can be seen during the Q&A session. And we got a lot of information, especially for our knowledge. Thank you so much for Professor Dr. Snigdha Misra, and let me deliver the conclusion about the topic. The goal of assessment is analysis the problem of the society and help each other. Successful community assessment includes understanding current conditions of families, individuals, institutions, and policies, evaluating local capacities for supporting change, building community support for implementing change, factors which may trigger the need for a community needs assessment, like existing data are old or data have never been collected on some segment of the population, and amended by a government agency at the state or federal level. Research findings provide the impetus for taking actions. Availability of funding serves as the impetus. There are also 7 steps in the process of assessment. The first step is define the nutritional problem. Step 2, set the parameters of the assessment. Step 3, collect the data about the community. Step 4, analyze and interpret the data. Step 5, share the findings of the assessment. Step 6, set priorities. And step 7, choose a plan of actions. We also have to know about the community goal and also the target, so the program community will effectively treat it. All right, that was the conclusion about the topic of designing a community program based on its assessment. Next, ladies and gentlemen, before we are going to end this event, the participants can fill attendance link in the chat box. And last but not least, let's take a photo session. For all the participants here, please, you can turn on your camera. Okay, are you ready, guys? Okay, let's take a picture from the first slide. Second slide. And the third slide. Cool. Finally, we get to the last session in this event, that is closing. Thank you so much to Professor Dr. Snigdha Misra for delivering the best topic today. Let's close this event by saying Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. As the master of ceremony, I would like to say thanks to the participants for attending today's event. If in guiding this event I made mistake, please forgive me. We look forward to seeing you on the next event. Stay healthy and see you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Sia.
Bye.
Siapapun kamu, pasti kamu punya cita-cita. Universitas Binawan akan membantu mewujudkan mimpimu.